Okay, let's say that you're trying to make a beam this big for your house. You need to know exactly how big the tree is. You can't just go and measure this and say, okay, that's 1 inch, that's 1 inch. Okay, I need to go and find a tree that's 1 inch wide because trees are circular. So when we talk about measuring shapes and we're looking at the area or the perimeter, right? The area is the space inside. That's area. The perimeter is the measurement on the outside. And I just measured the outside. It said 1 inch, little double tick mark, and 1 inch. That's a square. But if I get a circle, you know, it's like, oh yeah, that's gonna be big enough. You can't go and cut a whole tree down. So you have to start to think, well, what is the extra area outside of that square? And how do I find out what the circumference is the length of a circle, what circumference of a tree will get me this perfect piece of wood? So if this is my tree, we measure trees outside, but I'm going to use this as an example. How am I going to find this object? It's like I can't use a ruler. I can't go round and round and round and round. So the best thing that I could do is actually take a piece of string and go around the tree. So I go outside, stretch my string out, and then, you know, it's a circular shape to stretch it around a tree. But the great thing about string is then I can stretch it out, and that's the height of my tree. You definitely don't want to use stretchy string like wool, but I'm going to use that because that's what I have. Here we go. So I put it on a spot to start with, and then I just go doot, 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 doot. And this is actually how you can measure one-dimensional objects on your page. Two-dimensional, two-dimensional. There we go. Do, 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 all the way around. Or curvy lines like on a map. This is how you could measure lines on a map too. Anything that's not a straight line. So there we go. So now I have a length, and I can even go like this. And then I can get my ruler. In this case, I'm just using measuring tape. Stretch, stretch. And it's almost 8 inches, but there's no such thing as almost in math. So it's 20 centimeters, just about. It's actually 19.8. So I have the circumference is actually, we're just going to say 20 inches. That's how thick this tree is from one point to another point. All right. So you can do that on a really big tree. So if you're trying to find the circumference, it's the outside of a tree. But then when I'm trying to mill a post out of it, I can do a couple things. I can say, I'm going to draw another circle here to show you. So there's actually different parts of a tree though. This part right in here, this would make the best post because this is the heartwood and this is the sapwood. So its reason it's called sapwood is because it's new growth, it's very sappy and sticky, and it has a tendency, of course, to be not as strong as the heartwood. So if I was to make a beam, I would probably make it with the heartwood. But if I'm making 2x4s or planks for my floorboards, I could go right through. In fact, I would want to use as much of this piece of wood as possible. Look how much I can get out of it. So then when I start to look at it, I'm like, okay, if this is a tree, I can have all my floorboards. I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 floorboards. And then I might even use this bit for my wooden pegs that I'm using to put all of my house together. No wood would want to be wasted. So it's really important to understand, using trigonometry, how you can divide this tree up. So if I go down the center, and the center, thereabouts. Also, I brought this out so you can see how the level works. So it should be right in the middle. There you go. So now I have a center. I can start to measure different pieces out of it. I personally have never milled wood, but there's lots of tools that you can use to mill wood. But if I want to find this distance from the outer edge of my wood to the other outer edge of my wood, I know the circumference, and I want to know how big a piece of wood I could get from here to here once I've stripped off the bark. They've definitely stripped off the bark. I'll read that. Okay. I want to know the diameter. So the diameter is the part of a circle that stretches from one outer edge to the other side, the other outer edge, like if you cut it in half. Diameter can be, you can have hundreds of points for a diameter. Now, a radius is halfway between that, okay? So this part, that's called the radius. And when you start to learn trigonometry, there's a really good formula. Circumference equals 2 pi radius, or circumference can equal diameter times pi. What this means is the circumference can be found by multiplying the diameter by pi. Well, what the heck is pi? Pi, this symbol right here, pi is a number that goes on what seems like forever, but it's shortened to 3.14, but it goes on much further than that. And this is this amazing formula that is used to find radius and diameter and circumference, and these are all interchangeable. So if I want to find diameter here, then I just need to divide my circumference by pi. I hope I have that right. Don't worry too much about this math, but keep it in your mind that when we start to use the word pi, and no, I'm not talking about the pie that you eat, this number pi, we're talking about how we can find the circumference, diameter, and radius of a circle, but also we'll start to find angles and other things. So when we're milling a 4x4 post from a tree trunk, milling a tree trunk was hard work. First, the bark would be stripped away. The sapwood on the outside and the heartwood would be used for different parts of the house.